Apple TV has been wowing audiences with their latest release, Calls. Did you know that the show has only 9 episodes? Each episode is dark, thrilling, and full of suspense. Apple's Calls has clearly taken the world by storm, and here's what you need to know. What is the show about? Apple's Calls has taken the world by storm, and here's what you need to know. Have you ever felt like the definition of television has become a little hazy in this fast-paced streaming era? Nowadays, programming can roll out a movie length and can display various interconnected narratives across a range of different shows. You don't even need a plot. This is what Apple's newly announced series is like. If you're an Apple TV subscriber, you probably already know that the series is coming to Apple TV Plus very soon. And according to a new release, each installment of the 9-episode thriller series follows a darkly dramatic mystery that unfolds through a series of seemingly average, unconnected phone calls that quickly become surreal as the characters face growingly unsettling experiences. The show was made by Fede Alvarez, who is a Uruguayan filmmaker. Alvarez also made the most recent Evil Dead remake and is the creator of all 9 episodes of that show. He's directed everything, too. Each episode in the show lasts between 13 and 20 minutes and includes a self-contained story. If you're a fan of horror movies, you'll be pleased to see hints of supernatural elements in some of them. Some other episodes include arguments between couples, usually about infidelity. Overall, each episode tells a strange, sci-fi tinged story that is going to keep you on the edge constantly. And even though the episodes aren't apparently connected, there are hints in the later editions that the episodes might have some connection to each other. There are also indications that the series is set against some grave supernatural global event, or even something that is throwing the space-time continuum off its axis. What's the cast like? Alvarez has a cast full of big names for Calls. It also seems like the cast have had a fun time shooting the show. Some cast members have even suggested that Calls is the ideal project to undertake in a pandemic. Even though shooting in person has become more challenging than ever, the show is designed to reduce extensive, in-person shooting schedules. Actors that will be heard in the first season include Nicholas Braun, Clancy Brown, Lily Collins, Rosario Dawson, Mark Duplass, Karen Gillian, Judy Greer, Paul Walter Hauser, Danny Houston, Nick Jonas, Riley Cove, Joey King, and Stephen Lang. Other prominent actors like Jaden Martell, Paola Nunez, and Pedro Pascal will be joining as well. It's important to know that name actors do most of the voice work on the show, so part of the fun during the episodes is trying to recognize the actors' voices before their names appear in the closing credits after the episode ends. Also, a great way this show is being promoted is through the cast. This is also because Calls hasn't gotten much promotion from Apple before its debut. This is because it's hard to produce TV commercials for a show in which you will never be able to see the actors' faces anyway. So it's also a much more experimental project than what Apple TV Plus has usually offered to us until now. But it seems like they made the right decision. What is the show based on? If you're wondering what inspired such a show, Calls is based on a Canal Plus French series that was directed by Timothy Hockett. These series were based on a short film that Hockett directed in the year 2016. Hockett mentioned that he listened to real 911 calls on YouTube and was extremely scared by the whole experience. So he wanted to show that in the horror or thriller genre, it is possible to do something similar without any visuals. This is why he created a show that would just require audio. As you probably already know, Apple has confirmed that each episode of the show is 12 to 15 minutes long. But even though they seem completely different, the episodes do connect in unique ways over the course of the whole season. The whole concept takes some getting used to, especially since the first episode was super intense, even more than the rest of them. But it's not just the voices that you're going to look forward to, but also the animations. The animations in this series have a pretty creepy visual vibe, and Hawks and Cloak's ambient score makes things even more interesting. Some of the best episodes. Now that the episodes are out and gaining some traction, we need to discuss the best episodes that were released by the show. Some people feel that the best episode of the series is the second one. This episode has a man on a road trip who gets a series of phone calls from his wife, mother, and best friend. In a suspicious turn of events, it soon becomes clear to the audience that the time is passing at different speeds on the two two ends of the calls. So, if minutes were going by for the man, his family is experiencing months and years without him. The whole concept is creative, but has an underlying sadness to it. Another great episode is the third, in which a man gets a phone call from his neighbor who asks him to do a favor. All this time, the man's wife is egging him on. The episode shows how a non-traditional form like this can turn a story into a whole roller coaster ride. The opening episode. The show opens with an episode titled The End. This episode focuses on a long-distance couple who are about to break up on December 30th. During the course of this conversation, the guy is interrupted by calls from a new girlfriend. During the time he is talking to her, she's interrupted by something disturbing happening outside. Both of them panic, and by the end, they're both part of something seemingly impossible. And the next 8 episodes of the show explain that. You might not believe this, but some of the stories which fill in the gaps in the year before the phone calls in the first episode are sort of similar. So, whatever's taking place in the world has some nasty, and people are screaming into phones about things the audience can't see. So all you can do is imagine. Sounds pretty exciting, doesn't it? Most of the people in the episodes have their words garbled by poor reception or outside noise, so you really have to put in an effort to understand what's happening. Another great episode, but perhaps a fan favorite, is the episode that is set on an airplane, with a pilot who is talking to a terrified flight attendant, ground control, and a little child. The whole idea of him talking to 3 people at the same time while something terrifying goes on in the background is properly disturbing. There is another episode that features the voice of Pedro Pascal as an odd man with a weirdly heavy duffel bag in his closet, and Mark Duplass as the suspicious neighbor he sends to collect the bag is a funny one. But as the show progresses and you start understanding the crazy links between the scary things happening to all of these strangers, you get used to unsettling feelings and start enjoying the show. Also, the visuals have a way of showing up without too much space. For example, visuals can be lines simulating the connectivity of the phone calls, or the movement of characters who are doing some sort of actions, like the guy who is driving or the pilot flying the plane. We also see different forms of longitudinal sound waves broken up by static manifestations. If you notice closely, you'll see the colors of the lines and spirals in the episodes change based on the emotional pitch of the person talking. What are some problems with the show? Visuals might not be the star of this show, but they definitely make an impact. The abstract visuals are definitely more advanced than a regular screensaver, but people did expect a little bit more from Calls. In fact, it was supposed to be a groundbreaking show, but now some fans feel that the story told by creator Fede Alvarez and his strong group of writers isn't much better than a decent narrative podcast. In fact, some have even argued that a little more visual aid would have worked out wonderfully for the show, since the suspense was intense. People have also pointed out that each episode in the show runs between 13 and 20 minutes, which means that people don't really get a lot of time to process what's happening. If there really is an apocalypse going on, we should at least get some time to process it. It's understandable why the episodes are kept shorter after all. Calls are supposed to be short, but fans still wish they got some more context into what was happening. It's also interesting to see how the showmakers have tried to garner public attention by having famous celebrities like Nick Jonas come in to become voice actors. But despite this, fans feel like their voices are only somewhat useful in the show. People have even argued that the showmakers edited some of the celebrities' voices and changed them, which also made them barely recognizable, so it was pointless to get celebrities as voice actors in the first place. Regardless, the show seems to be doing really well, and Apple TV might be coming up with ideas for a sequel soon. And with that, we'll end this video. Thanks for watching.